Yo, party people, this is Dylan coming at you with another video from Noble Records. Oh yeah. And this is a contest entry for Chris. And it's from the Man Cave. Now, I will tell you, I know Chris better than any of you do. I was there when Chris was born. I'm in Chris's will, and he is in mine. So, me and Chris are really tight. But basically, all you need to know is that I should win this contest just because I know Chris better than you do. I mean, I know Chris better than he knows himself, if we're being honest. So, no, but in all seriousness, I do know him better than you. I have known Chris since 2010 or 11, maybe. Chris and I have traded more records than most people ever see in their lifetime. Me and Chris, we fought in the War of 1812 together in a past life. So, kind of a big deal. Anyway, so Chris reached 500 subscribers. He's a good guy. So I don't, like I said in my last contest video, I don't do many contest videos. But decided to do one for Chris because he's such a swell guy. So, the first question was, name a record that reminds you of your family. This one I've showed it 1,000 times before. This is Sleeping at Last, Atlas, Year 1. And it's really, really killer record. This one's on colored vinyl and everything. It's got 3 different records that go with it. But basically, it's really ambient music, really beautiful music. And we discovered this when we were driving out west as a family last year. And so if there's any album that we listen to more than anything, it's that one. And no matter what, the rest of my life, anytime I hear that album, I'm going to think of my family, because we listen to it all the time. We put it on when the kids are going to bed. It kind of calms them down because it's such calm, smoothing music. Because the name of the artist is Sleeping at Last, and the name of the album is Atlas, Year 1. One that reminds you of your kids is this one. I would say this is King Crimson, The Court of the Crimson King. I remember when my wife was giving birth to Noble, my first son. A lot of you might not know that. My son's name's Noble. Anyways, so our son was, we were in the hospital. She wasn't in active labor or anything, but we were in the hospital. I wore this out. I was listening to it all the time. I remember I had like a little stereo thing you could bring in the shower with you, and I hooked my phone up to it and was listening to it. Like even when I was in the shower, I just listened to it the whole time. And then now, anytime Noble sees this album, he always like tries to hit the ball in the back of his throat, and like he counts his teeth, and really he loves this album. This is his favorite album artwork. And Cannon, my other son, loves it too. Favorite record, or in here somewhere is your favorite beverage to drink while you're listening to records. And I only drink coffee and water. You guys might not know that about me. But right now in the stage of life that I'm in, I don't drink soft drinks. I don't drink alcohol. Never have. There's a long story about that as well. So, yeah. Don't drink alcohol. I just, it's more of a personal thing to me. I don't believe that it's wrong. But for me, I just don't, because I have a super addictive personality. And I mentioned this in a podcast episode I did, but my great-grandfather on my dad's side was a terrible alcoholic. And he was driving a truck full of workers to the job site. Half the truck was his wife's side of the family, all the men, and the other half was his side of the family, all the men. He was drunk and driving this truck, and he cut it too close when he was going to a railroad track. The train hit the truck, killed 19 people, I think, which was everybody on the truck except for him. So he was the only one to survive. He was an alcoholic the rest of his life. My grandfather was an alcoholic his whole life. On my mom's side, my great-grandfather was an alcoholic, beat my great-grandmother. So it was just both sides of the family. There's alcoholism way down the lines, and I have a very addictive personality, if you can't tell by my record collection. So I choose not to because I don't think I can control myself. So I know myself. I know my limits. But so, and also try not to drink soft drinks and all that stuff. So when I'm drinking, when I'm drinking records, I like to listen to coffee, if you know what I mean. Coffee is my favorite beverage, definitely, and also to listen to records with. I just happen to have water right now, but I drink a lot of coffee always, no matter what, but especially listen to records. Favorite record from your favorite genre. So my favorite genre is psych, but like I really like the hard rock with the blues tinge to it. I really love that genre. I'm not sure what you'd call that, but it's my favorite. I love the hard rock with the killer blues riffs. I guess, you know, hard rock, maybe. Psychedelic hard rock, whatever. It's hard to say my favorite album because there's so many that I wanted to pick. I wanted to pick Morgan. Actually, it's in here somewhere. You know, Jerusalem. That's another great one. But this is the one that kind of really opened me up to that. The first one I really heard, this is Barbed Wire Sandwich by Black Cat Bones. Incredible if you like the type of thing. This is, when I discovered this album, my mind was blown. I could not believe this had existed and I didn't know about it. Just killer, just face melter. Love this album. So that's my favorite record, probably from a favorite genre, because it opened me up to that genre pretty much. Record with the best story. Alright, now I am tempted to not tell the story. I don't tell the story. This is in my top 3 craziest stories. My top 3 craziest stories are 3 stories that I do not tell. Why not, you might ask? Because I don't want you thinking I'm a liar. They're so crazy. My top 3 crazy stories. The only people that know them are my close family and my wife, and you know, my kids don't know them. My parents might know 1 or 2 of them, but my wife's probably the only one who really knows all of them. This is one that's in the top 3 that I don't tell because I really don't want people. Every time I tell it, people look at me like that's a lie. And it's not. It's really, 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 really happened. And there's records towards the end of the story. Kind of randomly. But, so, the year was 2010. I was at a church, and they did this charity event to where every Thanksgiving they would cook a bunch of turkeys, and they would take the turkeys out to families that were less fortunate, that couldn't afford, you know, to do a real big Thanksgiving feast. So we were going out delivering turkeys to families in need, and we were out in like Pageville, South Carolina, if you know where that's at. Middle of freaking nowhere. This is even like farther out. Anyways, like farther out, even farther than Pageville, out in the middle of nowhere in South Carolina. And we're going around, and we're trying to find this house, and we got these turkeys, and we see this like compound with these huge Jurassic Park looking gates. And we're like, what the heck is that? And we're like, we gotta deliver these turkeys, but we gotta come back and see what this is. So we finished delivering the turkeys, we came back on our way back through to see what this was. And this time the gates were opened. And we were like, oh snap, we gotta go in there. No, I was like, we gotta go in there, but my friend did not want to go in there. Let's just say I wouldn't say he's a chicken, he probably just has good sense. But I was young and adventurous, and I wanted to go in and see what it was all about, because it looked pretty intense. I guess if I had really thought about it, I would have deducted that it was a cult, but whatever. Anyways, we drove through the gates, and we look over, and there's like a big pasture full of sheep, and then there's another pasture full of crops and all this stuff. And there's all these little houses everywhere. So this is like a little... And this is in the middle of freaking nowhere. Where there's no houses, no nothing. It was really weird. We drive up, and these guys with beards come running out to our car, and they're like, you need to leave right now. You need to leave. Turn around, leave right now. Because if our leader comes out here, you're gonna really regret it. And I was like, hey, this sounds interesting, because I was stupid. And my friend's like, yeah, maybe we should leave. You know, I'm like, no, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be cool. I'm gonna see what this place is all about. It's fun. That fun quickly turned into deep regret and blood. Anyways, so the leader of their cult walked out, and he was a huge, huge man. I would say about 30 feet tall, but that wouldn't be true. He was a good 6.5, 7 feet tall, huge guy, broad, big shoulders. Very deep voice. And as he started talking to us, he was charismatic. He was really nice. He said, "Hey, won't you come in and I'll show you around?" I was like, "That's great, that's great." And my friend is like, "No, have you never, seen one of these movies? You're gonna die in here." I'm like, "Nah, come on, let's go." So we go in, and he takes me into his office. I know how crazy this sounds, but it is true. Takes me into his office, and he's got all these screens on his wall that has security cameras on all the houses. He said that about 130 people lived in this little commune, and he had this religion that he had pretty much made up. I will not waste my time telling you what it was all about. It was crazy, but it wasn't that crazy. It was like, it wasn't anything too nuts, but it was a little bit weird. What was more weird was how they did their community and all this stuff. And we got into a little bit of a philosophical and theological debate. I believe this certain thing, and he believed something else, and we were going back and forth, and things got heated faster than I expected. And it became very evident that we need to get out of there, because he was pissed. And it got scary, because he started hitting me. He started, slapping me in the chest and slapping me on my shoulders, and then he started hitting me in the face. And I was like, we gotta get out of here. But he was so huge, and he had all these leaders, these followers, whatever, all around him. Anyways, long story short, I finally got out of there. We hightailed it on out down back to the church, and we got there. And my friend that was with me, he told everybody like what had happened, and they all, being locals from the area, knew about this cult. I didn't, because I wasn't from there. I didn't know. And they were surprised that I had lived. But on my way out, this lady had brought some records, because she had heard I liked records, and she brought me a crate of records. That it was coincidence that it was on the same day. It had nothing to do with the story, but it did happen. And this is one of the records that was in there that I kept. This is Clapton. Clapton. And so, all that story to tell you this, that I got this record on that day, and I remember it, and I was thrilled about this record. It really made it better. Now I see these kind of pretty regularly, but at the time I hadn't seen one, and I really wanted it. So, guys, I know that's a crazy story, but I really went for the jugular here, because Chris made it very clear that he wasn't handing out participation trophies. The best video is going to win, and I really want it to be me. So, I don't play for participation. But that, like I said, I don't tell that story very often because it's nuts. But I thought I would share it with you, because why not? To celebrate Chris and all of his success. So, for the bonus question, we had name a time where you were on the giving or the receiving end of vinyl karma. I'll do you one better, Chris. I got a story where I'm on both ends. That's right, both ends. It was one of my first pop-ups. I think it might have been my second pop-up. I was out at the coffee shop, chilling, and this kid came up. And I told this story in one of my videos a long time ago. This kid came up, and he really wanted this Bob Dylan Highway 61, and he also wanted like something else, but he didn't have enough money. And I was talking back and forth with him, and he's like, I just don't have enough money. I just can't do it. And I remember that album being his age, and I told him, I said, listen, this is weird, but when I was your age, this album changed my life. This guy's like 13, 14, I don't know, young. And I said, this album changed my life. I love it for this. This is the reason why I started writing songs. This is the reason why I started collecting records. Like, this album changed it all for me. So, you know what? you can keep it. Just have it. And I gave it to him. Didn't know the kid, just gave it to him. And he just lit up like a daggum Christmas tree. He just, all it was over the moon. So he was so excited. I was like, man, I felt really good to give him that. I'm sure that that'll mean a lot to him for the rest of his life. And so towards the end of the day, this lady came out, and she was just there for a coffee. She wasn't coming to my pop-up or anything. But she saw me, and she picked up a copy of Joni Mitchell, Court and Spark, which is not an expensive album, but she's like, oh man, I used to have this album. And she told me for like 10 minutes how much she loved it. And she almost started crying because it had such a connection with it. And I was getting ready to pack up anyway. I was like, you know what, just take it. You can have it. Just keep it. And she was just like so grateful, and I felt really good about giving those records away just because it didn't cost me much, but it meant a lot more to them than it probably would have to me. So I went home and felt pretty good about it. I told my wife about it, all that stuff. So the next day, I get a call from these people that they say they got my phone number from somebody I had bought a collection from before. I don't know who that was. I don't know how they got my number, but they called me and she said, my dad passed away and I've got all these records left over from him. I would love to sell them and make a little bit of money. And so I went over to their house and I picked up the records, and it was the best collection I bought last year. It was really, really good. This is 2 albums that are from that, the Demian, and then this is a killer, pretty much same thing as Bubble Puppy. This is the same band, but really killer record. I love these albums. These were 2 of them that were in there, but there were like hundreds of really killer psych albums. My want list was cut in half just by buying that collection. It was awesome. But anyways, so that's my entry to Chris's contest. Chris, I love you, brother. You're great, and I'm just thrilled with all the success your channel's gotten. You got a very good flavor to your videos, very informative. If you guys are into jazz or you want to be into jazz, check out Chris. His link is in the description of this video. Take care.